Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am blessed and honored today to be your host here in studio, live in Dallas at our Glomo HQ at Love and Relo Central here with none other than Ron Dunlap, the CEO of Graebel Companies. Hey Ron, how's it going?
Hey Ben, really awesome to be here, man. Excited. First time in a long time. Thanks for the invite. Finally.
Fine. You know, hey, for anybody out there that wants to be on the show, you're more than welcome to just come on. Just let me know.
I got to give it to you.
Hit up Sammy, our producer. She'll make it happen for you. No, Ron, this has been kind of a thing that I've been kind of back channeling, working with your people, trying to make this happen here. Had to go through the big man himself, Bill Graebel, to get the call in. But no, this is really cool. It's an honor to have you here for real.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Hit that like button, get in the comments there, let us know where you are, who you are, check in with us. We've got folks checking in from all over here. Look at Sammy, super producer Sammy on. Just graduated college yesterday.
Congrats, that's awesome.
I wasn't able to get out of bed the day after I graduated college. She's doing better. The future is safe with these kids, I'll tell you what. Really is. Hit that like button there. Let's see here, we got Brian Fudenberg checking in. He says rock on. Krista Moore checking in. Look at this. Daisy checking in. Hit that like button, y'all. Sammy checking in. Very cool. We're going to get into everything. We're going to talk about, what does it mean to do succession planning these days? How is Ron filling those massive galoshes left by Bill Graebel? Everyone knows that I love Bill dearly. I think the world of him. I think he's just one of those Mount Rushmore figures in our industry. So, I kind of curious to know that dynamic and how that played out. And also really looking forward today, Ron, to getting to know you a little bit and understand your story and everything and, kind of where you see the future of our industry going. So hit that like button, y'all. Get in the comments. I'm going to try to also take your questions live. We've got a bunch of people checking in. Hit that like button. Get in there with questions. I want to ask you, Ron, how did you get started in this business, though, and how did you come to Graebel?
Yeah, so crazy question. I'd gone back to school after serving in the military. I ended up going to grad school at Texas Tech, Red Raiders.
Guns up.
Guns up, baby. So after that, went to work for the government, and then Intel pulled me out and said, hey, want to hire you, HP. And at that point, I was like, you know what, just want to take a break. Had a 6-year-old son, wanted to just have some time with him. So I looked online for a job that would be that 9 to 5, stay in the cube and just get it done. And there was a website designer's job, which I'd never done website design, with Prudential Financial in Scottsdale, Arizona. So,
web design? That's how you came in?
Yeah.
That is a new one.
Right. So I ended up going to Prudential Real Estate and Relocation Services. Spent almost 9 years in Scottsdale, and then ended up getting through mutual friends connected to the Graebel community and family, and did an interview, and rest is history.
Hey, shout out to our web designers out there who are wondering what the career path looks like.
There you go. That's right.
Don't ever settle, web designers, okay? Code some good. I don't even know if they're coding anymore. I think AI is coding a lot of stuff these days.
I sure can't code. Let's just say
my
that.
God. How long were you a web designer before you got the call from the bullpen to kind of step in
maybe
more?
14 days.
14 days,
I had lunch with the CIO, and they were having issues with Oracle getting it implemented. I'm like, just do these 3 or 4 things. They're like, how do you know this? So I told him my background. He's like, okay, you know how Oracle. I'm like, oh, why didn't I just shut my mouth, right? So
that's awesome, dude. But from that, did you learn a value? Because you said ex-military, and the thing in the military is never volunteer, and then here in the corporate world, it's the complete opposite.
So I believe if you want to build your career, you volunteer for everything.
Yeah.
I think you just continually take on more and more, even things you're probably not ready to take on, because that's how you learn. So. Marissa Mayer, who was the CEO of Yahoo, used to say every job she ever took, she was never qualified for. And I thought that was always cool. So I'm not sure I should have ever had some of the jobs I had, but if you work hard and find the right people to work with, you can do anything.
I got a quick story about that, talking about military. So I never had military experience. Yeah. I was living in Tampa, and we have MacDill Air Force Base there. I was a member of the National Defense Transportation Association, and we had our Tampa Bay chapter there. I was there for about a year. And then it was time for elections, for chapter elections, right? And someone was like, hey, you should run for, office or, be an officer on the board. And they said, well, who wants to be the president? And I raised my hand. And I'm sitting in there with the ex-wing commander, a 3-star general, retired, who now worked at Microsoft, a bunch of folks at U.S. Transcom and SOCOM, Special Operations Command, et cetera, et cetera. A lot more people that were a lot more qualified than I was. I was probably 27 years old. I raised my hand. the wing commander, like the ex-wing commander is like, his name was Tanker Snyder, what a name. And he's like, hey, maybe we should let General Gehan be the president. I was like, I asked him, he didn't want to be it. And so I ran unopposed. I was the president for 3 years. I had no military service. I was in my 20s, and I'm the president of this Tampa Bay chapter. Anyway, my point is, to your point, you know, volunteering, and you figure it out.
Yeah. If people get too caught up in titles or promotions, that's where you actually fall down. It's go lateral, go backwards. I went backwards to go to Graebel. So it's always about learning more and just taking on more.
And I think along with that too is maybe don't look for the title, look for the experience.
Exactly. I don't care what the title is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I want the responsibility, right? Because if I have the responsibility, then I can have impact.
I noticed that because we do a lot of recruiting, and when we talk to people who really have it, they're not wrapped up in titles.
Yeah.
When we talk to people who don't really got it yet, they want that title. They see that title as that stepping stone.
And I'm not saying it's not important to people. I totally get it. That it certainly can matter to folks. I understand that. But if you really want to be driven, don't worry about all that.
Yeah, super interesting. Also, get in the comments here. We're going to take some questions as well. I've got a ton of questions, but I always want to prioritize your questions and honor you guys who are out there watching this. We wouldn't have a show without you. Also, take note at the bottom of the screen, we are giving away an ultimate VIP trip to Washington, D.C. I will be there. I'll take you to a Commanders game. We got a VIP suite. We got field passes. We got 2 nights accommodations as well, 2 round-trip airfare tickets, all sponsored by Turnkey Housing and by USI Law as well. So shout out to those sponsors. So go register down below, glomo.com/DC for that trip. We got a couple questions coming in here.
Yep.
And let's get into it.
Hey, let's do it.
Patrick Marble writes, Ron, what's the biggest evolution or change that you've seen in the industry in your 25 years?
Hey, Patrick, long time no talk. Hope you're doing well. Hope you like in Phoenix. You just moved to Phoenix. So anyway, so biggest revolution. Truth is, I think we've had a lot of revolution going on over the last 25 years, but I think we're in the midst of an evolution. And I think that is where the industry will actually see its biggest change. So I don't think we've seen it yet.
Really?
If you look at what we've done, it's pretty much been the same thing. I mean, it's services, and that's our challenge. We're not willing to push ourselves and think outside the box.
The business model has stayed largely the same.
It has, and people have to realize that right now when you have your greatest challenges, you also have your greatest opportunities. And there are so many opportunities, but you have to get out of your comfort zone. What mobility is today is not what it's going to be tomorrow. So if you think you're going to be doing the same thing 5 years, 10 years from now, you won't. And companies have to get comfortable with that. And it's scary. It's change. It's investment, and it may not work, but then you have to run towards it. Fail quick if you're going to fail, but don't be fearful. Because all you do is you're paralyzed and you wait, someone's going to pass you by, then you'll be obsolete. So
yeah, you know, you're totally right, and I love the Warren Buffett quote: "When people are greedy, be scared. When people are scared, be greedy."
Exactly.
I love that. I think now is the time to be kind of aggressive, but you have to be creative. We know what the headwinds are in the industry. We know domestic home sales challenged. We know household goods shipments are shrinking. We know a lot of this stuff. We know lump sums have been on the rise for a while now, right? Yeah. But where do you see the opportunities, Ron?
So we are moving from a mobility company, a relocation company, to a managed service provider. We're going to add additional services. Most of what we're adding right now is not even in relocation.
Wow.
It's in HR. So we're really looking at becoming more of an HR services company. Mobility will always be our core, but it won't be all we do. And if you think about, if you talk to a lot of our clients and certainly prospects, they're being asked to pick up more and more and more, things that they've never been responsible for. So what we found is that we have certain clients, certain prospects that say, hey, can you do this? Can you add this? And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll figure it out. We'll just do it.
Yeah.
And as we've done that, we've really been able to add additional capabilities and verticals, again, that just aren't tied to Relo. So to me, it's about providing that all-encompass solution where we manage multiple providers. Some may be Relo, some may be something else, but it really is that one-stop shop.
I really like that because often we've complained that global mobility was on this island, relocation was on this island within an organization. People don't know really what they do. They only need them in these niche situations. They struggle with having a seat at the table, with not being strategic and being kind of relegated to being kind of reactive and tactical. And so I think what you're talking about is a much more matrixed kind of purpose, right? Where you're touching more of the people organization in a company, and therefore being more relevant year round and touching more people in the organization. Relo might only touch 10% of an organization at best.
Yeah, and that's at best.
At best.
If you're 1,000 or 10,000 employee company, you're not moving 1,000 people a year. You're lucky if you move 100.
No.
So that's why it's hard to get a seat at the table, right? And then if you think about most of our clients, it's not our clients, it's the broader organization that doesn't recognize really what mobility brings. It is strategic if you do it correctly, but then you have to figure out, okay, if you want a seat at the table, you've got to bring more than just the mobility track.
Love it, absolutely love it. Get in the comments here, I want to hear your questions. Great question, Patrick. We've got Rob Zeitz checking in from Wicked Smart, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Here, Janet Turner. Hey, Janet, our first producer here on Love and Relo. Looking forward to the show. Janet's in Florida. Hope you're doing well out there. Evan Heights checking in here from Gloma HQ. What's up? Yes, Scott, I see you. Christina, I see you. Tracy checking in here. Susie checking in. This is great, y'all. Hit that like button. Get in there. This is Dana here. Look, I can't even read anymore, Ron. I don't know what's going on here. Jillian checking in. What's up, Jillian? Daisy's got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Look at that, Daisy. Daisy says, what advice would Ron give to someone just entering the mobility industry today? We've got a lot of young folks in our office here. You know, Sammy just graduated college yesterday. Okay, onward and upward, right? We got a couple more interns, you know, in the room over there. We're talking to folks at UTD and other schools who are looking at global mobility as a career field. We're talking to a lot of other young talent in this business. Ron, what advice would you give to them?
Take every opportunity you can. Raise your hand all the times. Just learn, learn, learn. Be a lifelong learner. I have been a website designer. Haha, that's a joke, right? I've been a CIO, I've been a COO, a CEO, a president, a director of data management. I've managed things that I couldn't even tell you exactly what it is the teams did. So you've really got to be willing to push yourself and say, okay, what can I learn more? Because to me, we look for people that aren't experts in one area, but almost jack of all trades. And the reason why you have to do that, in an industry like relocation, you don't get the luxury of having dedicated teams in everything you need to do. People have to be able to go across instead of down. So if you want to pick a vertical, it's going to be harder to have a great career in relo. If you want to pick something that's more horizontal, learning across the different verticals, you'll be so valuable, you'll never be let go.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, learning different facets of an organization. Because if you're going to lead a whole organization, you got to understand the whole organization. You know, we see that with our clients that we really hold up as best in practice, right? They have these rotations where people go and they kind of visit, you know, operations and manufacturing and marketing, and then they really move people around so they're well suited to lead.
But it's interesting you say that, because people will say the company has a rotation, and I say no, create your own rotation. You are responsible for what happens in your career. Don't wait for someone else to give you the next opportunity. Go create the next opportunity. I never waited for anybody to say, can you do this? I went and found something that wasn't working and said, I'll take it. Yeah. And luckily I had leadership that said, okay, try, do it.
What advice would you give to someone, though, that when they feel kind of like pigeonholed in a certain type of function? I mean, I remember, you know, early in my career, I was in the call center, right? And I was in the call center first as an agent, then as a supervisor, then as a manager. But I felt like I had this like call center stink on me, right? Where no one really respected the call center people. They were thought as kind of lower level, you know, less skilled folks, and they wouldn't give us a chance. And there was a stigma, I felt like, and I had to break out of this bubble into other parts of the org to really find a career path. It was really hard for me. You know, how do you move across disciplines like that?
You build relationships, and I think that when you talk about working from home or working remote, it's much harder to do that. Those water cooler interactions, look, we're not returning to office at Graebel. We are certainly a virtual workforce today. We are in 41 states in the U.S. We're in 12 other countries. So we don't require people to come back in the office. With that said, the relationships you build in sitting down at lunch with somebody, or have virtual lunches, have virtual coffee breaks. Talk to someone who's leading HR, talk to someone who's leading IT. Find different things and say, okay, where's your interest take you? And ultimately, you may have to leave to move up. That's just the reality. And I think people sometimes are scared to make that jump, but that's how you grow. And one of the things we say at Graebel, you can always come home. So people leave. We have a lot of people that leave and come back. And those people are so valuable in so many ways because they've learned how to do things in a different way. Not every company is the same, clearly, and they bring back a different set of skills and experiences.
I love that. So you guys are open to what we call boomerang employees.
100%.
That's so interesting. I look at companies where, that's the case. And I look at other companies where, you put in your notice and boom, they take it effective immediately, and you're out the door on your ear and never call us again, kind of thing. And we look at that, and we look at the way that what that does to what the different approaches do to the employer brand and the way they're talked about kind of in the industry, right? And I think it's really important to kind of send those kind of signals.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool. We got people checking in. Charles Beatty, what's up, Charles Beatty? It's good to see you. Gabriel Wacker, hello from Kansas. What's up, Gabriel? Where in Kansas are you? In Kansas City? I think you might be. Rob says congrats to Sammy. That's Mike checking in here. Greeting from Northern Virginia. What's up, Mike? Janet's checking in here. In the past year, I've seen at least, 5 global mobility mortgage professionals move over to the household goods space. I find it interesting. It makes sense specifically for the movers that have had military involvement, trying to, any thoughts on, so she's saying trying to diversify into other markets, i.e. RMC, corporate. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on people, and she uses the example, people going from the mortgage space into the RMC space. I mean, that's a very small niche or segment within a very broad service offering from a relocation management company. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think this is a reality. I think, and that reality is that if you look at our industry, if you look at volume over the last 3 years globally, hasn't changed that much. So when you talk about getting into the relocation space, you're entering a space that already is diluted greatly with a number of relocation providers. It's going to be hard to be successful. So you just have to be cognizant of that fact. So I think that as you look at where your opportunities are, I think there are other opportunities that are downstream services, but not necessarily trying to be that aggregator. Now, anyone on this is going to say, well, yeah, you're one of those, you don't want us to get into space. No, get into space. I'm just pointing out that you're going to be fighting for volume that isn't really growing that much overall globally.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room. It's hard to go into a space when it's not a growing pie, right?
Yep.
And we've seen the amount of consolidation. We've seen some smaller players that have just kind of gone under in the last 24 months, right?
I'll give you a perfect example though. I say to household goods providers all the time, if you don't have a relationship with a furniture company, shame on you. Because if people are going to get cash in lieu of, or if they're going to sell their things, there's a reality in household goods. You don't want your parents' furniture anymore. You just don't. I mean, you can sell it. Right? I don't need that 100-year-old
silverware collection.
Exactly. But we moved our son from San Diego to New York, and it cost us more to move his stuff than it would have been to sell it and buy new. So if you just look at the cost of furniture, it's almost to a point where it's very difficult to justify those larger household goods shipments. So I'm not saying you don't do it. I think there's still a core of what you'll move, but it's real. They're getting smaller. Shipment sizes are getting smaller. So as a household goods provider, you got to change the way you think. So when you get to that next location, what if you have relationships with furniture providers and you get a cut of that? You get some kind of referral of that. So again, it's changing the model, because what you do today will not get you to tomorrow.
I think you're spot on there. And when I think of the services that have value for me, I've moved quite a bit recently, and I've had full service moves, every time. And when someone else is paying for it, the decision to move that armoire, is easy.
Sure.
But the things I find value in, okay, you moved all my stuff here, and where does it all go? Like, design this space for me, because I know I have nice items, but it doesn't look nice right now. I need you to lay it out for me. I need an interior designer to tell me where all my artwork should go and where and what the feng shui of this room should be or whatever, right? Like, that's the kind of service I need. And I've seen movers for many years. I'm not bagging on my movers, but I come from this space, right? And I'll say we have the list of stuff we won't do has grown. And the list of stuff we will do has shrunk. It used to be that a mover would put a car on that truck with the household goods, and now they outsource it. It used to be a mover would disassemble complex items and crate items and disconnect things in the home, and now they outsource it to third-party services. It used to be that they would take TVs off the wall, right, or hang them, and now they won't do that. And yet, I have 6 flat screen televisions in my house, and now I got to go outside and spend another $1,200 with somebody to hang them for me. Well, that's $1,200, and you're already in the home. That's $1,200 you could have monetized. And I look around the world, and I know Graebel's a massive company with moving partners all over the world. When I look around the world, no other moving industry outsources those items around the world. They all take care of it in-house. They have their own carpentry, they have their own stuff. I mean, I see some movers are even offering now maid service and things like that. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you combine these different things to unlock value? I think to your point.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to focus on household goods. That's one of the most critical components of relocation, certainly the most invasive, because you got people in your home going through your stuff. But I would argue it's in any of the verticals we have. You have to look at what you offer and think about how you do it differently. One of the things we talk about is, we always talk about the needs assessment, but we've actually started saying, what about that concern assessment? If you think about people moving, they'll tell you what they need. It's very transactional, but when you talk about what are your concerns, perfect example, and this I use a lot when I'm out presenting. I have 2 elderly parents. I'm lucky enough at my age to have both my parents.
God bless, that's awesome.
But I do not want to go overseas right now because if something happens, I got to get back, right? So if you knew that and you said, hey, don't worry about it, we got you covered, you get on whatever flight you need, you come back whenever you need to, once you make sure you take care of your parents. My concern just got eliminated. And all of a sudden now I'm willing to take that international assignment that I wouldn't have taken a month ago.
And I love that. And that is definitely a concern of the transfer or assignee. But how do we convince companies to pay for it?
So I think part of it is educating why things work or don't work. I can tell you that whenever this has been brought up, most clients that we work and certainly a lot of our prospects we talk to, like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And again, it's that whole idea of a process is not a substitution for thinking. Policies allow us to not think. I'm not saying do away with policies altogether, but if you do the needs assessment, we have this idea at Graebel of policy of one. So you talk about AI, talk about data analytics. What does that mean? Well, if I asked you questions right now about what you're going to need in your relo, it'll be different than what I need. But why would we get the same policy? So let's build with guardrails by the corporation. I get it, spend or cost or whatever. Let's build a policy that's good for you, but it's also good for me. I don't know if you have kids. I don't know if you have dogs. I don't know if you have 20 cars, 1 car. I don't know the specifics, but I know it's different for you versus me. The other thing is get the family involved. Understand their concerns. If there are kids, what are their concerns? Pets. People love their pets. You may not want to go overseas because of that pet. How do you handle that? So again, I think it's understanding and customizing the solution to each individual. That sounds crazy, but we can do it.
It does sound, I mean, I love it as an individual. I love the idea of somebody sitting down and consulting with me about what my real needs are and helping me to kind of design a bespoke plan for myself that really cares for my unique needs. As an organization, especially a large organization, how do I ensure parity and equity and that everyone is kind of, I used to believe I remember as a young manager, we always used to say, you have to treat everyone equally.
But we don't.
And now we're evolving in our mindset, right? To like say, okay, you don't have to give everyone the same thing, but you have to take care of everyone, whatever their needs are.
And that's a guardrail. That's
so how would those guardrails even?
So
is it like a budget or what?
Yeah, no, part of it's cost. That's where you get the core flex. Let me give you an example where we are not consistent today.
Okay.
So you're a homeowner, I'm a renter.
Okay.
Right? Because you own a home, you get home purchase benefits when you get to your destination.
Massive benefit.
I'm a renter and I don't get it because, well, what if I'm living in New York and I'm going to move to, I grew up in Kansas, so we'll say Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
I can afford a home in Wichita, but I can't afford to buy in New York.
Yeah.
Because I'm renting, I don't get that benefit.
Oh.
Okay, so that right there, we're treating people different because of their starting point.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
That's a great example.
So that's an example where drive it by needs, not by a category that we've created 30 years ago and now we stick with it, right? So
that's because the idea here, the premise here of this policy is that we want to keep everyone whole.
Yes.
But in the reality, people take an assignment because it's a step up. And if that renter wants to turn into a homeowner, I mean, that's part of the allure of taking that opportunity in Wichita.
Exactly. And is it really keeping them whole or is it taking care of them? Right? Taking care of them doesn't mean it's always going to be the same. I mean, think about your medical plan. If you have kids, you pay a lot more for your kids than your wife and for me, my wife and 3 kids, and I pay X. If you're single, you pay less, right? Well, is that fair that person's paying less and I have to pay more, or should that person get more money because it actually costs the company more because I have family members? It's not even fair in our benefits. So again, this idea of fair, equal and fair are not always the same thing, and we want to treat them like they are.
Yeah.
And again, it's hard to get our head around that because our process has said you don't do that.
Well, and it's sticky and it's squishy and it's superhuman,
Yeah.
and it's like we don't want to get there. We want to write a policy that exists in a vacuum and say, here's the policy, read the policy, do the policy.
And that allows us to have it be a substitution for thinking. Now, I think Core Flex gets us part of the way there, but not all the way there. And that's where, again, through AI, through technology, you can start to build those policies of one as we move forward.
You bring up AI. We got people checking in. Hit that like button. Get in the comments here. We got a ton of people watching right now, which is super awesome. Ask your questions. I'm going to try to prioritize them. Sharon, I see you checking in here. Really cool. We got an awesome group here of folks. Yeah, we got Jack Taylor checking in from Canada. What's up? Heather Morgan saying people are getting into corporate housing as well. That's interesting. Corporate housing, moving, these are both verticals that are diversified outside of just relocation. I've noticed you see corporate housing, folks who are selling in the insurance space, selling to, you can sell to different types of projects and stuff, not just relocation. And then on the moving side, I'm seeing a lot of commercial moving and things like that are going on. So I think that's one of the things that they have in common. Gosh, look at this. We got Pat. Oh, Patrick's got another question. Oh, this is a great segue. Look at you, Patrick. Look at that. He's got another question. You mentioned AI.
Yeah.
Patrick's question is, how do you see AI growing within the industry? Do you see more things such as basic counseling falling into that? Pricing, procurement, thoughts?
So yes, on all of it, but I think there's caveats to all of those. So let's talk about what we have to put our minds around. So a majority of what we do in a relocation is transactional. Most of that should be automated through technology or through some kind of AI bot. What I mean by that is, this is where people are complaining. I don't want to answer the same question with 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different providers, right? I don't want to, like when you go to the doctor, you actually go online and you fill out all the information before you ever get on a call. Well, why are we not having folks give us all that information up front or getting a majority of it from the client, right? Getting that out of their HRIS systems so we don't have to ask all those questions, because it's just ridiculous that we do that. Then say to the transferee or signee, go look, verify. Okay, now once that's done, then you say, okay, what are other transactional things we can take out? Here's the example I always use. So I flew to Dallas, right? So I go online, I find my ticket, I buy my ticket, no issues. I didn't go to dinner. I didn't come in when I met you today and go, man, I had this great experience buying a ticket online. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
Now, if I miss my flight or my flight gets canceled, it's going to be how that airline treats me that I will talk about. It's either going to be amazing or it's going to be terrible. Well, as soon as you go from a transaction to an interaction, that's where the moments that matter happen. We as an industry have to focus on the interactions. That's what consulting is all about. And we are so focused on doing the transactional work because we think it's important. Technology and AI can take so much of that out of the mix. Then we focus on actually what makes those moments that matter different. That's where we have to go as an organization, as an industry.
Really interesting. Get in the comments here. I want to know what you think about AI. How are you seeing this kind of working into your different processes? Where do you see it having the biggest impact? Is it in the customer interactions? Is it consulting? I think there's a lot around data that can be done through AI. The question the challenge I've always seen, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is our clients are asking for more analytics. Our clients are asking for more insights into what's working, what's not, where are they getting value, where can they save money, right? But their data sets often exist in a silo in their HRIS system. And then we're over here working independently in our systems, right? And of course we have our downstream suppliers that may or may not plug into that system. And so all these data kind of are in these data silos. Do you see a fix for that? I mean, is that a problem, or am I making that up?
I think it is a problem. I think the reality is you've got to get better on integrations, APIs, and that kind of stuff. So we're talking about a lot of different pieces here, right? So we're talking about data integration, we're talking about analytics, we're talking about AI, and they're not all the same, but we always like to talk about them as though they are, right? So data analytics and AI are very different, right? AI should be able to do the work for me, right? Analytics will tell me what I need to look for, and those are very different. So I do think that AI will play a role as we move forward. Let's take the household goods process as an example. I believe there's a world where I never have to talk to anybody till the driver knocks on the door. And we're not that far away from it. If you think about it, if the initiation comes over from the client, I can set it up in our system. I can then send a service order out to a household goods provider. They can send a link to the transferee, say, hey, download this video tool.
This app, do it.
Take an entire view. We get all the details we
Inventory
need back to the
yep.
household goods place. They can send over a calendaring system that says, okay, you pick the date that you want to pack and load. The transferee picks the pack and load date. Guess what? They didn't talk to anybody the entire time. If you think about how we all interact, we don't like having to sit down and talk to people to do some of the work. We want to be able to automate that as much as we can. That's more tech than AI, but AI can start to take some of that and fix a lot of it for us, right? So we can automate a bunch of that. I think internally in our companies, we can use AI to be more efficient. Look, there's still going to be pressures on costs, right? So whether you use AI for how you process invoices, how you write your code, all that's going to happen. I'm going to butcher the saying, but there's a saying is, it's not that AI will replace you, it's the person that uses AI will replace you. We have to embrace AI and figure out how do we use it to maximize the work we do. You will unlikely ever see a post from me on social media that wasn't checked by AI. Right? I just believe at this point, you'd be crazy not to look at AI to help make things better.
Yeah.
Now, I also think there's a limit of how far you can go with it today. Who knows what the limit is tomorrow?
Yeah.
But I can promise you, there used to be, long before we had calculators, right? We had slide rules, okay? Well, all of a sudden we had calculators, the world's gonna end, computers are gonna destroy the world,
Yeah.
AI is gonna destroy the world. We're just in another, not even really, this is more of a revolution than an evolution, but it's big, and we better embrace it.
Yeah,
We better
have to
use it.
embrace
We have to.
We have to embrace it. Do you find that? Do you think our customers are asking to not speak to someone? Is that a desire? I mean, I do see some reluctance from folks on both sides of the table to pick up the phone and talk to people. I mean, is that an annoyance? Is that a dissatisfier at this point?
And that's a really great question. And the reason why I say that is, I think we want to believe people don't want to talk to people. But here's what we know: if you get
We
a lump,
want to believe that people don't want to talk.
right? That's what we want to believe, right?
Okay.
We want to believe that
Let's
they don't want to
unpack
talk to
that.
anybody. But there are points in time in your life when you do.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a
I
couple
want
of
to talk
examples.
to you right now.
There you go, right? Why am I here? I could have done it
People are watching
virtually.
us talk to each other.
Exactly,
And they're
right?
talking. Some of them are talking back.
Yeah. Who knows what they're saying? You get to see it. I don't.
I know. We're not putting all the comments.
But so what do I mean by that? So we have this idea that we just want to make everything automated, but there are point in times in your life when you really want to talk to somebody, right? So we know that when we give a lump sum out, 72% of the people that get a lump sum ask to talk to somebody, not about their repayment agreement, not about how do I get my money, but what do I do with it? How do I spend it? I mean, 85-inch TV and Xbox, probably not the best use of your money.
I'm sorry, Ron. I couldn't help myself. Best Buy had a sale. Okay.
Hey, you know what? That's probably what I would have done coming out of college.
I got up sitting in front of 85-inch
There
television
you go,
right now.
right?
Yeah.
No, but I
Anyway.
mean, I think that the reality is people look for help. Think about if you get, like if you're selling a home and you get your 3 BMAs back. Do you want some system to tell you this is what the comparison is across the 3 and this is your own value? Because look, with AI, that can be done. That can be done today easily. Or do you want to talk to somebody?
No, I do want to talk to somebody.
Right, so I do think, and I believe in the future, you're going to have the slider. This is how I see it in our tech. You pick how far you want the tech versus the actual hand-holding.
Oh,
and I
wow.
also think our pricing will be different. Look, if you're a client that wants everything automated, fine. You get the, we'll call it the bronze version, right?
Yeah.
If you want somebody that's available, and it's not that a consultant is tied to a file, but we have a group of consultants tied to a client. But whoever you call, you'll get someone who specializes in you as a client, but not on that file. Now that's our silver. Now our gold is you're going to have a person dedicated to every file.
And I really like that because you're placing a value on the human interaction, and theoretically, that's a more premium package.
It is a more.
We're
premium
charging
package.
for that.
Yeah, and we have to.
I feel like this is a problem that we've had in the managed relocation industry, and then downstream it affects us all, is that we don't charge for the value that we're adding in each phase.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to be some like uber profiteer here and just charge for everything, but at the same time, it's like if you're asking for a human being, there's value in that interaction.
Exactly. You're asking for a reason, right? And it's okay. It's okay whatever you want.
And there's a cost to that human
There is
being.
a cost, right? So I can't do it for free, but it's like I'm not here to tell a client they're right or wrong about whichever one they pick. I'm here to talk about the pros and cons of each because they have their pros and cons. If you're a startup and you want to manage your expenses, a lump sum may be a great start. If you're a larger organization, hires a lot of college grads, that may be a great thing to have. Might be something in the middle. So to me, it's all about choice. If we're going to go to core flex or reload flex or whatever you want to call it, that's great. But why not have choice for our clients on what kind of solutions they want?
Super interesting. Christina Meyer says, spot on.
Awesome.
She loves it. It's very emphatic on there. Jack Taylor's got a question here. I'm gonna see if I can read this, y'all. Eyes are going here. There's a great, that's a great vision. I was thinking about the experience of becoming like this anyways. What are your thoughts though on the stress and support component? A no person process will still need some hand-holding to be stress minimized.
Yeah, I don't, I want to be careful here because I think extremes are always dangerous.
Yeah, generalities.
But I do believe that we will always have someone that you can reach out to if you want to. So I don't think that goes away, but there was an old Easterns commercial, technology when you want it, people when you don't. I think that has to be our mindset as we move forward. It's technology first, people second, if that's what you truly want. Again, that's the slider. The slider may say people first, technology second. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're building has to be customizable or configurable. I like configuration better than customizable, to meet any need that client or transferee may want. Yeah. And again, you've got to go beyond that. You got to go to the family, you got to go to the kids. There's so many other factors that we don't think of today.
I want to change gears with you. Get in the comments here. People are loving the slider idea. Yes. What's up, Heather? I see you. Get in the comments, y'all. I want to switch gears a little bit because this is Love and Relo. It's not just Relo, right? We're not just always doing webinars about stuff. We like to get to the people kind of behind the title and the role and everything. I want to ask you a personal question, Ron. People that watch the show know that I hold Bill Graebel in such high regard, you know, and one of my favorite interviews was, and it was like in April or May after COVID, and you know, I remember him just telling me, you know. It was kind of about leading through this weird time. And he's like, you know, we went to this town hall meeting and we had these decks prepared and everyone was sitting there just like worried, you could see, visibly worried and so tense. And he's like, we just literally threw it to the side and said, let's just sit down and talk. And they just had a chat. And I just thought that was so cool. And he always leads with such empathy, you know. And I say all that to say, what is it like filling those shoes?
So I don't know if you can ever fill someone's shoes like Bill Graebel, right? I think you do the best you can to certainly try to emulate what he espouses, and that really is being truthful and showing love to others and really having integrity in everything you do. And you know, a lot of people go, well, how did it all happen, or when did it start? And I got to tell you, Bill set a tone from the first day I met him. So I flew up. And it's crazy. I remember all this, but there's a reason why. I flew up to Denver. It was the Monday after Thanksgiving in 2008, and I interviewed on Tuesday. Now, the reason why that's important is on Thanksgiving of 2008, Ben Graebel, his older brother, passed away unexpectedly. Wow. So when I landed on Monday, I got picked up at the airport, and I was told, look, Bill won't be able to do the interview. He's lost his brother. Okay, well, I totally get that. Go to the hotel. Next morning, I come down. I'm waiting to get picked up. And the woman at the counter says, I really want to just say I'm sorry for your loss. I'm thinking, what does she mean my loss? Like at that point, I wasn't connecting the dot. It was a direct bill back to Graebel. So here now, within a few days, is a woman at a front desk in a hotel that knew that Ben Graebel had passed away. So that told me the Graebel organization had a huge impact in the local community. Yeah. So that was like wow, that's important to me. So I go in, I'm going through the interview. By 11 o'clock, knock on the door. In walks Bill Graebel. Clearly, he had been emotional, and I could tell that he'd been through the ringer, as you can imagine. Yeah. And he looks at me and he goes, we don't get people like you interviewing with my company. Can I take you to lunch? Dude, he had me at hello. Wow. We went down to the cafeteria. We spent an hour and a half, 2 hours together. They didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what I was going to do. He's like, just come to the organization and help. Get here and do whatever you think makes a lot of sense. So that's basically how I ended up at Graebel. And Bill and I became very close very quickly. I think we would both say we are very much like brothers. You know, it has been a phenomenal experience to learn from him. I would hope, and I think he would say he's learned from me, we are very different in many ways, but very similar in many ways. I'm very data-driven. He's very much emotionally driven, right? And if you could combine the two, I think it'd be pretty phenomenal. So over the years, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And for years, I was behind the scenes taking care of the day-to-day, and he very much was the external face of the brand.
Yeah.
I can never be Bill Graebel.
Yeah.
I will never be Bill Graebel. All I can be is who I am. But he's taught me a lot about showing compassion and having empathy and really bringing love to how you lead. And like as a military person, it's black and white,
Yeah.
right? So I've had to learn and adjust under Bill's leadership, and I think it's made me a much better leader. But I will also say I always joke that he's given me enough rope to hang myself many times, but he has been unbelievably supportive and has been amazing. 16 years we've been together. We had one argument.
Yeah.
One argument in 16 years.
What was it about? What was it about?
We were actually, this is hilarious. I'd had my foot operated on. I was on a knee scooter. We were in his office, and it was me, our CFO at the time, and Bill. And Bill is, the amazing thing about Bill is he is like, if he sees it, he wants to go after it, which is great. But there are also times you go, dude, we got to stay the course.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't say dude to him because he was our CEO and chairman at the time, but dude, you got to stay the course. And I was getting frustrated. I'm like, I'm just going to have to walk away before I say something I'll regret. So I had a styrofoam salad thing on my book. I get up, I'm trying to get out the door on my scooter. I'm on my knee on the scooter or whatever. No. He jumps up and opens up the door. And he's like, can we talk later? And I go, I don't know. I'll go off on my scooter.
You go and I'll hop on your scooter. I've been on that knee scooter before too. It's hard to be like, I don't know. My scooter.
I had to look so stupid. So a couple hours later, I wheeled into his office. I'm like, look, before you say a word, I know how dumb I looked. And he's like, yeah, you look pretty stupid. We laughed, and that was the end of it. I mean, we have never once had an argument, a real argument. I mean, it's been phenomenal. It's truly been phenomenal.
Well, sometimes it's good, though, too, to be able to really tell each other how you feel about something and adamantly disagree, but then kind of come back together around those values, and around that.
But that's where
respect.
Bill's different. I've never once held back from telling Bill how I feel, and he knows when I do it, I come from a place of truly being genuine and compassionate and loving. Doesn't mean we always agree, but we've never had an argument. And I think that just talks a lot about the DNA of him. I think the DNA of me, and I also think the DNA of our company.
Yeah, super cool. We got people in the comments here. Get in the comments here. Let us know what your thoughts are. I'm so inspired by Bill and your truth, love, and integrity. Actually, our core values here at Glomo are truth, love, and fun. Not that we don't have integrity, but fun was the top three.
Well, if you start with truth, you better have integrity.
Yeah. We feel like it's implied. It's a number one. But yeah, just. Bill was the first one of the first people I really met in the relo space. I went to my first ERC. It was the National Relocation Conference in 2011, I think, in San Antonio, and I went to my first time attendee meeting, and he was the person. He was the seasoned professional at the table, and every table got one, and so he was one of the first people I met, and he's been nice to me every time I've met him since then. Back when I was just a whippersnapper in my late 20s, early 30s, whatever it was, and up until now, he's always treated me the same and always been super kind and gone out of his way to shake my hand and spend time with me. And if I'm in town, he'll pick me up in his truck and take me to dinner or something like that. And I'm just like, I can't believe you're giving me this kind of time. I remember one time I flew to Aurora to, and we sat in his office and we did one of these there, and he's just been super gracious with his time. So much respect, and the first person I met in the moving industry was Dave Graebel. And I remember I was in Vegas at the Red Rock Casino at the American Moving and Storage Association, now defunct AMSA, and I was on the elevator going down to the lobby, and I was super nervous because it was my first moving conference. I was with a containerized company, and at that time we were persona non grata in the moving industry. In fact, we were involved in a class action lawsuit with the moving and storage, which I didn't know. That was above my pay grade. I didn't realize that, but I didn't realize how much we were, hated and despised, right? And so I get on the elevator, and but I'm feeling all this tatension and everything. And there's this, kind of little old man there, and I just like, hey sir, how are you? And oh good, and how are you, sir? And he was being really nice. I think he initiated the conversation even. And just super nice. And I looked at his name badge. I kind of did a double take, and it said Bill Graebel. I'm like, Bill Graebel, like Graebel, like the trucks, like He's like, yes, yes, son, whatever. And he was just super nice to me. And at a time when not many people were nice to me. Yeah. And I just was so struck by Bill Graebel and by Dave Graebel, I should say.
Yeah. Dave was amazing. Two quick stories about Dave. In our boardroom, when you walk in on the right, there's a picture of Ellis Island. and that picture will stay there. That will never move because that is, in David's mind, was the first relocation. So that is a special place in our company. And then at the end of our board table is a picture of an old farmer. And I walked in one day, it's probably 7 years ago, and David's in there and he's got his hammer and he's putting it down. I said, David, we can get that taken care of. He said, I know how to hammer. Right?
I know how to hammer.
Never took anything away from David, right?
Seriously.
But he puts the picture up and he goes, when you sit in this chair and you look over your shoulder, you will know that I'm still watching you.
Wow.
Never underestimate the effort it took to build this organization. And I've never, every time I walk in that room, I get chills, and it reminds me of the purpose and the obligation and the responsibility you have when you sit in that seat.
Because he started as a driver, didn't he?
Oh yeah, no, he started one man, one truck, borrowed money from his parents. I mean, it truly was, it's truly that American story.
And to grow a massive van line, which then turned into one of the largest relocation management companies and all these continents and everything, and turned into this professional services firm.
Yeah, and they were willing to take chances all along. I mean, I remember calling Bill, I was at Amsterdam, and I called Bill and said, it's not looking good for our van lines, we need to do something. And he goes, it's time, it's truly time to get rid of it. And that was 2014, January, it was February of 2014. And I had stepped in to be the COO of the van lines. Never worked in a van line in my life.
Wow.
Right, and I talk about, build trust, trusting people. And it was like, man, I thought we had it turned, but it just was too hard.
Was that a hard thing to do? I mean, Dave being a driver, the van line being the kind of genesis of the whole company, and being very, moving centric, for a lot of years, right? I mean, was that a hard thing to divest of the van line?
Being in it, I won't tell you that it was hard. I have to believe both in Dave's heart and in Bill's heart it was hard. That was the core. That was, if you're ever at Good to Great, they sold the mills. But it also allowed them to really go to this next level. And so when I look at it, I go, yeah, that had to be difficult because that was who they were. But yet they knew where they wanted to go. And they knew that what they had couldn't get them to where they wanted to be or what they wanted to be. So that to me is what Graebel's all about. If you look at our history, there's always been these rolling of the dice and willing to take a chance and put yourself out there and, to really get to that next level of service and duty and care. So.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight makes a ton of sense. In the time, I mean, it just feels like something must have been a challenging
I don't know if I could have done it.
Decision to make.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I could be Bill Graebel and say, hey, Ron, take it.
Yeah.
If my name's on the side, and I've said this to Bill, right?
Yeah.
And he has been unbelievably gracious even in our transition. I mean, it's like, dude, you do whatever, he doesn't say dude either, but dude, you do whatever you got to do, and I trust you, and just keep it going. So.
What was that conversation like from a succession planning standpoint? It's something I see a lot of organizations don't do well, and it looks like this was really well thought out. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, it was I'll say roughly a 7-year transition. And it started, we were on a trip in Asia, and we were floating in the, one of these, he's a Which one. And I said to Bill,
Like
Bill.
floating in a tube, or like you're on a boat?
We're just floating out there in the water, right?
You're just, I don't know. What did you say, floating? Like, I see you guys with my ties floating around. Like,
probably had an umbrella in the glass, whatever. And I'm like, Bill, I just think I'm really good at the day-to-day, and you're so good at the visionary stuff. And he goes, yeah, that's fair. And we started talking about what the future could look like. And look, it had to be when he was ready. And again, the title doesn't matter. So roughly 5 or 6 years ago, we talked, and I will admit I was somewhat frustrated. I said, Bill, come on, I can fix things, but you got to give me more of the day-to-day. And he goes, you're right. He goes, you'll become president. You'll be my only direct report. And then do what you need to do, I trust you. And that started, I think, the transition. And then I think a testament to Bill, and then ultimately the transition, is that when it happened, nobody was shocked. And a lot of people went, I already thought it had occurred. And the truth is, if you have the right people with the right frame of mind and honestly the right character and heart, it's easy. It's honestly easy because Bill never felt threatened, and I never felt threatened from Bill or that he wouldn't do it. And he came to me late last year or beginning of 24 and said, let's do this mid-year. It's time.
Wow.
And he's been unbelievably gracious. He does not get involved. He does not dictate what I need to do. He's like, I am the chairman. You're the CEO. You've got to build whatever team you want to build. I trust you. Just do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So
super cool. People are loving the story and the share here. Get in the comments, y'all. Hit that like button. We don't have a ton of time left with Ron, so if you want to hear something, put it in there. People are putting some comments in here. Dano McCoy checking in. Hey, Ron and Ben, two of my favorite people. Dano McCoy, I got to tell you something. God is good, brother. I found my pocket square holder that you sent me, man. I thought I lost it. I thought the car wash stole it from me. Okay. No, I found it today, man. So I know he was planning on getting me one for my birthday, so get me something else. Anyway, no, thanks, Dano. Appreciate you.
Dano is literally like a brother to me.
He's awesome.
Class act.
Dude, he's so great. He's all the things. He's funny. He's insightful. He'll make you laugh. He'll make you cry. Like he's that dude, you know.
And he sends those texts when you don't think you need it.
Yeah.
You get one from him, and it's like, man, we're thinking about you, and just amazing.
When I started my company, Dano was one of the first people to call and like leave me a voicemail, and it was such a touching, uplifting voicemail. Yeah. Like it brought tears to my eyes, and I love him for it. So, anyway, I'm getting emotional. We got people coming in with questions here. You know, Hershey's got a question. Hershey's got a question. Says, "Hey Ron, I'm a student at UTD." She's actually not just the student, she's the president of the Global Mobility Club.
Wow.
At University of Texas, Dallas. And she said, "I would love to know what you wished you knew when you first started in the global mobility industry. How can a student prepare to enter the job market?"
Wow, that's deep. First of all, the fact you're at UT and I went to Texas Tech, I'm not sure I even want to answer the question.
Oh, man.
Throwing it out there.
Go Comets.
I'll just say this. I think that I wish I really understood how complex the business really is and what it is actually made up of. If you think about Relo, you're a bank, you're a supply chain manager, you're a project manager, you're a consultant. There are so many things going on in this industry. And I was actually talking with the new service CEO, and we were catching up, and she was talking about the things that she's recognized, and it was awesome to hear someone coming into the industry that hasn't been in here quickly pick up all the things that you have to manage and do to really be successful in this industry. So that was awesome to hear. It's just a very different space. There are just so many disciplines you have to master to be successful in the non-small.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, and I always thought of RMCs as a supply chain organization, yes, a customer service organization, but you bring up the bank part.
Yes.
And that was something until I kind of became a business owner or kind of really more senior in my career. I didn't really pick up on the whole bank part and how much you got to carry. And I remember Bill told me, we're $1 billion turnover, kind of business. That's a lot of cash moving through here. And the more I talk to CEOs and presidents of these companies, they're like, I'm carrying a lot of paper right now. And I know that interest rates are higher now than they were 3 years ago, right? How does that whole dynamic of being a bank change and become kind of challenging? And how does that change the way we as an industry maybe need to do what we do?
I think it starts with education, certainly with our clients and certainly their procurement points of contact. They certainly see us more as a services type company or even maybe making a widget. And I've said we should move away from services and talk about benefits. And people go, is it really that different? It is. You can cut services all day long, but it's really hard to cut benefits. You get healthcare benefits, right? You have payroll benefits. I mean, you get all these benefits, but when you start talking about the amount of spend, Bill's right. We'll probably process $1.4 billion in 25 through Graebel.
That's a lot of money.
And if you think about clients that say I want 60 or 90 or 120 day terms, it's just not okay because most
for free, and what's implied in there is for free, right?
Well, most of what we're processing is a payment on behalf of that employee. Might be a lump sum, might be expense payments, might be whatever. So the question is always when you have a payroll provider, they don't take or agree to 60-day terms or 90-day terms, right?
Is Paychex carrying 60 days on payroll? No.
Healthcare providers don't take 60 or 90 days. So somehow we have to do a better job. And this is on us. This is not on our clients, on procurement. It's on us to educate them as to what it is we actually provide. Because for every dollar of revenue that we will earn, we have to spend $10 to $12 on average. That's a risky business to be in because the clients hold you to the 10 to 12 from a risk standpoint.
You're carrying that 10 to 12 on your books.
You only get the one in revenue. So I think it's more education, more honestly transparency around the whole. How do companies make money? You know, I have to admit, I chuckle when I hear people say relocation companies are making all this money and hiding it. Let me be clear. I don't know a relocation company that doesn't provide audited financials to their clients. So if you think relocation companies are fat, dumb, and happy, just look at the financials they provide, because no one's making a killing in the industry. And part of it is things continue to add more tech. That's an investment, right? More security, that's an investment. When you think about, you know, longer payment terms, that costs money. I mean, that interest costs the company. So.
Yeah, and a lot of our clients are actually probably more savvy than we are with some of these things. You look at these large scale manufacturing or food companies, and these folks that, you know, are dealing with these carrying costs and finance, and have a lot of really smart finance people, and they're trying to push as much of this risk and as much of this paper on our books as possible, right? You know, as much as they can get away with, like, frankly, right? Let's be honest. And we do have to be educated ourselves and how to push back sometimes. We got some good questions coming in here. I don't know if I got time for all of them. We'll see here. Let's see here. Daisy says, when you think about your legacy in this industry, what do you want people to remember?
Someone else will have to define if I have a legacy, but I do want people to say that their lives got better because I was part of it. So I think as you get older in your career, you learn a couple things. Number one, you're no longer the smartest person in the room. You may have some knowledge of all the different things you're responsible better, but I really hope I help people and help their lives be better.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. We just had a quick little Wi-Fi glitch there.
Uh-oh, did I freeze?
Yeah, you broke the internet is what happened.
Lovely.
Evan's got a question here, and I think this is interesting. Somebody asked me something similar to this, and I'm going to ask you this. Evan says, as an intern with 1 year of school remaining, what makes the global mobility industry a compelling option for a full-time career after graduation? I might even ask this as a yes or no question. Do you recommend young people coming out of college today to get into the global mobility industry with all the challenges that we've seen?
I think if we continue to say we're global mobility, I'd say no. I think if we are willing to expand on that and grow and add more to what we provide and offer, it'd be a great place to go for a career. And look at history. People move.
Oh yeah, global migration patterns are on the upswing.
They're not going to change.
The question is it going to be corporately managed or individually directed?
So let's hit that one head on.
How do we monetize that?
But there's an answer there. So everybody believes right now, because of the work from home, everything that happened, that now we're going to lose mobility. That is just ridiculous. Let me tell you why. Look at our birth rates. Our birth rates are telling us right now we do not have a birth rate that will replace the workers that we need in the workforce. So at some point there will be a flip in the switch. Today you can still find talent. 5 years, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it'll be impossible to find the talent, and you'll have a real war on talent. What happens when you have a war on talent? Signing bonuses go up, benefits go up. What benefits are we talking about? Relocation benefits. So all of a sudden, people are going to have to provide so much more to get the talent to agree to come to their organization.
Yeah,
so
it's valid.
There's a cycle, and we're in a down cycle right now.
Yeah, and so when it comes back, I mean, that's super valid. But with efficiencies gained through AI, with the advancements made in remote work technology, I just did this, such an amateur move. I'm gonna keep my hands over here.
Guns up, there you go.
Threw me off. Is demand going to be there? I mean, are we going to need that one for one? Are we going to need as much talent as possible? And do we need them to be in a certain place? I mean, you talk about Graebel being a kind of a remote first organization now, right, post-COVID. And I remember talking to Bill over dinner, and he's like, our people served us so well during COVID. How could I possibly, insult them by asking them to come back and requiring them to be back in the office when they work so well for us, right? And so it sounds like that's continuing, because a lot of companies have changed and have made an about face there, and a lot of folks in relocation, frankly, are celebrating that. So many companies said, as of January 1 or March 1, we're requiring people to come back in office, and I do think that is going to be a net boon to the relocation industry. But how do you think that we're going to continue to see demand for this with you know, AI possibly requiring fewer people to do the jobs because they're automating so well, and remote work technology improving.
There was automation in manufacturing, and all of a sudden we weren't going to need to be able to relocate people, and yet we still relocated people. There was, you know, you look at the Industrial Revolution, people were still moving. AI will find its place. It will certainly change how we do our work, but there will ultimately, again, as long as I'm still alive, I believe, there will still be a need to be able to have someone to talk to on certain things. So will we be able to do the same amount of volume, maybe with less people? Maybe, but I think the volume will go up. I think the volume will come back. It's not going to be next year. So if anybody believes that Relo is going to be what it was 10 years ago next year, it won't. But in 5 years, 7 years, it'll look very different than it does today.
We were supposed to survive until 25, and it feels like now we got to find something to rhyme with 26 because it's like we're still hanging in there. All right, this is really awesome. We made everybody wait to their favorite part of the show. Overrated, underrated. You want to play a game with me, Ron?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Overrated, underrated. Ron Dunlap, do you know how to play the game?
Well, I think I do, but we'll try it.
It seems fairly intuitive, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out a topic to you, and you're going to tell me if it is either overrated or underrated. Those are your two choices. Okay.
I think I got that.
All right, cool. And I will tell you if you're correct.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's go. Overrated, underrated. First one up. Military work experience.
Oh, man. Underrated.
Underrated. Why is that?
I think the military really teaches you to think outside the box. And really, if you think about chain of command, it says solve the problem at the lowest possible level. Most people don't understand about the chain of command. So that's about empowerment. Empower your people to solve their problems, not raise their problems. So to me, that's, I think, the key in it.
That's a really good insight. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought chain of command was like,
you got to go
do what you're told
answers.
or something, not solve it at the lowest possible level.
Solve it at the lowest possible level.
That's a really good argument. All right, 1 point for Ron. All right, next one up.
Skippy.
Overrated, underrated, the relocation industry.
I think right now it's overrated, but I think it's going to become underrated. I really do.
Okay.
And like, it's
How
not
long
that
do we
I'm
have to survive until for that to happen?
I honestly believe it's another 3 to 5 years. I think it's just going to be a slog until then. I just really do. So.
Yeah. Okay. I think with consolidation too, you'll probably see a right sizing in it. Right now, I think part of what we're feeling right now is there's a glut of providers in the space. I mean, our corporate folks have told us that too. They see a lot of sameness from providers. They don't see, you know, maybe as much innovation. They see a lot of salespeople kicking down their door, and they don't have the volume.
So I'm going to challenge on that though. Consolidation is an excuse for people not willing to take a chance. If you are willing to add more, grow, do new things, you don't have to consolidate.
Okay.
If you can find different revenue channels,
more pie somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. Go outside your comfort zone. You won't have to
stop looking at the same pie, the same red
honestly,
ocean.
Stop being paralyzed. Stop talking about all the problems. Stop talking about, oh my God, the challenges were so no. Every challenge is an opportunity to run towards it and make it something good for you.
So you think maybe there's a lack of creativity?
I think we're scared. I think people are fearful. I think they are not sure what to do
Well, for so long we've been running the same playbook, right?
That's
and
exactly
so somebody
it.
Inherits your job, and they're like, well, I know the playbook. I know the playbook inside and out.
And I don't want, I'm not a maintainer. We won't be doing the same thing next year we did this year, and the year after that, and the year after that. That's the mindset you have to have as a business owner today.
All right.
And I'm not saying Relo. Any business owner should be thinking about, how do I change what I do?
We think about it all the time. Yeah. Super interesting. All right, 2 points for Ron over here. Look at this guy. He's on a roll.
Woohoo.
All right, overrated, underrated. Failure.
It is way underrated.
Yeah?
Embrace it, run towards it, enjoy it. You learn so much more from failure than you do success.
How do we as leaders create an environment where we don't punish failure, but maybe we celebrate it?
So this year we talked about being bold as a kind of our theme in the company. And I said, you know, we're going to actually celebrate people that were bold, but that also means celebrating people that tried and failed. We don't celebrate it enough. We should really look, and I'll give you a perfect example. I was in Singapore. I went to Dyson's headquarters, and you walk in, and the first thing you see on the right is this beautiful car. I mean, it is beautiful. You know who made the car? Dyson. Dyson tried to make an electric car 10 years ago. I may have the years wrong.
Dyson, like
Dyson, the vacuum cleaner. Oh yeah, everything.
Not the chicken, the vacuum.
Dyson, not Tyson. Dyson.
All right.
They leave it there, and then down that entire walkway, they have products that they failed at. They celebrate their failure. They put it out there so people can say, "Wow, at least we tried." And it is. They had a washing machine that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, front loader, but the thing was, you know, one drum normally. They had 2 drums that went back and forth. So you had agitation and a front loader that was amazing. amazing.
Oh.
But it was too expensive, so it failed. Right? So you sit there and you go, okay, over time they may find a cheaper way of doing it, they'll bring it back.
Well, they found a way to sell me an $1,800 vacuum cleaner.
Yeah,
So, I mean, they're doing something right.
Yeah,
They should price relocation.
Yeah, but you could say it sucks in a good way, right? I mean, that thing just picks up anything.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what you have to be willing to do. So
Okay.
I hate people that fear failure. Now, it's funny because in my interviews, I ask people, what drives you, fear of failure or a drive to succeed?
I think I think the fear of failure, honestly, I think fear is a bigger driver than
For
it's
you.
a bigger motivator than success or whatever.
Yeah.
I tell my team this. I mean, we have an 8:08 meeting every morning, right? A huddle, right? And I'm like, if I didn't have that meeting, I'd get out of bed at 9, right? Because I feel like I'm accountable to y'all, and I'm afraid to let y'all down.
Yep.
So I set that accountability in my day, and so and that's why I do these shows. I set these shows up, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern, so that way if I don't deliver one, then I feel like I've let people down.
Yeah.
And so for me, I build those accountability things in there. I don't know if that's the answer. What motivates you more?
Fear of failure.
Yeah.
The idea of disappointing people. That's a word if you use disappointed. Just
My
stops them dead
family.
in their tracks. Yeah.
These employees that trust me.
And I believe that fear of
families.
failure drives you to success. Now, some people will say, man, I've got to be successful. I get that. I get there's a difference. It's just, if you understand that, you understand the motivation.
So on the one hand, we fear failure, but on the other hand, we have to celebrate it. It's kind of an interesting
Yeah,
mental
why not?
gymnastics
I
we
mean,
have to do.
tell me when you've learned from your success more than you've learned from your failures.
Never. And I'll tell you another thing. You ever try telling a story about your success? Nobody cares.
Nobody
you tell
cares.
a story about your failure, people are riveted.
Yeah.
Tell me more,
Yeah. Exactly.
We love watching people fall down,
Get on an e-scooter and just run away from your boss. There you go.
Yeah, that's great. All right. All right, another point here for Ron. Okay, you're killing it, buddy. All right, overrated, underrated. Texas Tech football.
Equal.
Equal, you can't say equal. That was the rule. There's one rule. Overrated, underrated.
Oh my God, I'm gonna say underrated right now. I have to say underrated.
Okay.
We'll see how they go this year.
Why is
I'm
that?
actually a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. That's probably a better.
Who's better, Texas Tech football or the Cleveland Browns?
Right
Head
now,
to head.
oh my God, right now Texas Tech maybe. But we got 14 quarterbacks, so we're gonna figure
That's
it out.
a lot of quarterbacks. Maybe they can each take, run a play or something.
I'll give you that point.
Are they gonna be good this year, Texas Tech football?
They should, yeah. No, they should. They'll make a bowl, but I'm actually gonna go to a game. So my son was born in Lubbock on September 12th. My birthday, September 11th. We haven't been back since I graduated tech in, God, I hate to admit this, but in 97.
Yeah.
So we haven't been back. So we're going back for the first time. He's 30. We'll take a picture at the hospital he was born at. My major professor still teaches, so I'll get to see him. So it'll be a blast.
Do you get back to the school often?
It'll be the first time since 97.
First time since 97.
Yeah.
So yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it'll look, I'm sure, different.
Maybe one day you'll give a commencement. I heard you give good commencement speeches.
Oh yeah. In Ireland, it's great.
My friends in Ireland. You're big in Ireland, I hear.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What was that experience like for you?
It was awesome to just see their view of the world and certainly see their view of America and certainly American politics.
Yeah.
And a lot of questions about American politics. And clearly you just stay neutral.
Well, maybe over there you can get a little more loose, I don't know. Over here you're supposed to stay neutral. This is great. People are getting in the comments. Hit that like button. Let us know what you think. Jerry Jones needs to hear this lesson on failure. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. I'm a big Cowboys fan, and Rob likes to give me crap about it all the time. Super great. All right, last one up. Overrated, underrated. Patrick Mahomes.
Man, he's a tech guy.
I know.
I don't think he's overrated, but I think he's over commercialized.
So you see him everywhere, overexposed.
Yeah, he's overexposed. Yeah, that's actually the right word. Yeah, I think he's pretty darn good. But we'll see what happens. Look, I'm not a Tom Brady fan. I'll say that publicly. But how can you not look at the guy and respect him?
Yeah.
You can't do what he did and not say he's certainly the greatest at that position. So Patrick's still young. He's got a long way to go. But
when it's all said and done, who's going to have more Super Bowls, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady?
I think Tom Brady will, but I also think the system really benefited him. I think the Belichick system was awesome for him.
Tom's just a system quarterback.
I didn't say that, but I believe that.
Yeah. We got some Chiefs fans in the house here somewhere. Very cool. That's great, Ron. You've been a wonderful guest here. I thank you so much for spending the time with us and really opening up and kind of, you know, just being really candid and transparent. It's been really
Appreciate
cool.
it. Truly an honor. Thanks.
Yeah,
It
it's
took
been-
25 years, but it's
Yeah.
all right.
Hey, I got one last question for you, actually. What do I got to do do one of these from Graebel Alliance?
We don't have the alliance anymore. We combined them.
Okay, well, whatever you guys call it now.
You got 100 grand?
100 grand. Jeez. Hey, can we get 100 grand in here? Cash,
No,
20s?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Hey, we'll have to look at that. It's
Yeah.
a really good call out.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think we did one of these like 4 years ago from the old Alliance over in Denver, and it was a
No,
lot
we
of
actually
fun.
this year we combined it with our
Yeah.
client event.
Oh, I saw it was in Nashville, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. It
what I
really
hear.
was awesome. I mean, it was awesome.
Shout out to our buddy Hosea Botley. Love Hosea, good friend of the show, great
He's
client.
amazing as well.
Yeah, great dude.
Him and Dano,
Yeah.
those two are really brothers. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
if I ever have to go to war,
Those are the
bury a
guys.
body, I'm calling those two.
Yeah, you might get some younger guys. But anyway, yeah, shout out to Hosea. Got a big birthday coming up this year. Go Musketeers, by the way. 0-1, tough start with the Rhine Fire this year, but they ran into a buzzsaw in the first game. So anyway, thanks, Ron. Appreciate you so
thank you.
much. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week.